Whether you believe it or not, hope is always around the corner. A change, a drastic change. Now, you may be feeling that we are on a down and out. Those who of us who are progressives, who are humanitarians, who believe that in the common decency of humankind, you may believe that it's futile to try and push for political change, and yet we have surprises like this, where the money-backed Haley Stevens, the pro-Israel, very well endowed politicians, Haley Stevens, in the Michigan Senate race, Senate primary race. So you have the Democrat candidates, in competition with each other to find out who is the best Democrat to face the Republican come the actual Senate competition. You have Haley Stevens, who was whose campaign had about 73 million in her corner. Vast majority of that coming from AIPAC, a pro-Israel lobby group, and she was opposing the pro-human rights, the Democrat socialist Abdul El-Sayed. Of course, he was outspent from something like 10 to 1 or 12 to 1 between that. So he's very much on a down and out, you could say, if it comes to the marketing ability. He does not have the media on his side, and he did not have, first of all, the capital to push the marketing, but he did not also have the vast majority of the large-scale corporate media enterprises like CNN, Fox, obviously on his side, because of course they themselves are pro-capitalist. They, for a large degree, they're pro-Zionist too, and they see him and his position as a threat to their whether it's their pro-status quo and pro-military industrial complex positions, but also their low taxation for the super rich, obviously corporate entities. But this should not be a surprise in a way. Yes, the powers that be, the establishment, the media, the politicians, they would like to paint a certain image, but we should not lose hope, because we shouldn't lose faith, because the vast majority of people who are well read on the subject, or not even well read, people who know what's going on, will side with human rights. And let's not beat around the bush, right? Medicare for all, universal healthcare, which in the UK is NHS, and as well as the ensuring that well-funded or rather housing is affordable. These basic everyday kind of desires of the people. These are incredibly important, and you cannot expect a pro-corporate Democrat to serve the people. Obviously, they may play lip service to a pro-progressive agenda and policy-wise, but the moment you know that these people won't actually necessarily support the working class, because the moment you take on a Zionist stance is the moment your morality becomes very clear to be seen. Because you see, when you incorporate Zionism into your worldview, then you believe in an ideology. Obviously Zionism is racism, but when applied to other policies and philosophies and a political ideology, you believe in might makes right. You also believe in rugged individualism for the working class, for the everyday person. Let me explain. So, in order to justify Israel as a state, and in order to justify Israel, or certain people of an ethnicity or a tribe stealing and killing people of another tribe, is if you believe in innate differences between these two different people, and that the more industrious, the more westernized, the more capitalist-driven of the tribes deserve to win in that battle. And this is kind of like, this is why there's very little separation between capitalism and Zionism and the Third Reich ideology of might makes right, the social Darwinism of might makes right. And so this is why centrist Democrats who are pro-capitalist, they tend to lean towards Zionism, because they believe that when the cards, when the markets are free, when people are freed from the vices of equality and the desire for justice, which is very much a left-wing stance, is when you have a truly meritocratic society, right? And they do play lip service to equality and justice, and in the Middle East and a two-state solution, but they don't necessarily believe in it truly, because if they did, then they could see the writing on the wall and make the right make the right calls regards to the fact that a two-state solution is dead in the water. Even from the very beginning of the Zionist enterprise, and even prior to the establishment of Israel, there was the rhetoric, the attitude that was put forward by the Zionists was that of, we must take their land, and the people who Vladimir Jabotinsky, even prior to him, the founder of political Zionism, Theodor Herzl, said we must transfer the people of Palestine quietly and discreetly. Obviously this is racist form of ethnic cleansing, and of course the language wasn't as violent back then, but the insistence that of this entitlement to the land is what leads to kind of the constant aggression. Because you see, the moment you feel entitled to land, and the moment you experience the kind of the counter to your belligerence, your aggressive attitudes and stance, and obviously you have reaction to that, blowback, people defending themselves against you, and obviously there'll be a fight. But the fact of the matter is, if you start off with the implication that you must have this land, then obviously you are the aggressor, and this entitlement, and which obviously is rooted in a kind of racial supremacy, ethno supremacy. It's always going to be threaded into your interaction with the other person, and therefore you will end up at a point where you must get rid of the people who are resisting you, because obviously that kind of resistance will increase over time, and in your racist worldview, it ends up being that you must get rid of them, because of course in order to enact your vision for establishing this ethno-state, you must get rid of all kind of resistance, so that you may live in your utopian peace forever and ever. Again, the fact that the centrist Democrats are very much in favor of this is kind of speaks to a lack of consideration to the vulnerable, to the working class, and a disrespect of human dignity and justice, really. And also a subservience to the establishment, to the status quo. Things that have been established, we must preserve them, irrespective of whether they're immoral or not. But anyways, there's always hope. If there's a point to this video, there's always hope. Always be surprised, always be open to be surprised. And this is why we must continuously talk, communicate, and push for political change, because if it wasn't for that, you know, we're going to see things like this appear, but it won't gain real momentum without the consistent desire and, for, you know, the constant optimism for change and hope and justice. And this means, obviously, if you care about the long view, you also care about opposing kind of any kind of discrimination and having a belief and faith that the truth and what is good will win in the end. What is good is so important. It's not just for political changes, but for your own and your personal life. Know that you must have faith that goodness will win. Anyways, more on this in the future. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you.